Niles. I am a counselor in training, future mental health and performance coach. I have wanted to work with athletes for a long time now, since being an athlete my entire life and playing college basketball has really shaped my worldview of the mental health game and its importance. I've really enjoyed especially our interview course assessment that we did, to getting to be able to hear from a professional counselor and learning different, theories and dimensions from their point of view and their experience, and seeing it in real life hands-on has really made me excited to want to pursue, really specifically after World War II, where counseling as this entire branch of interconnectedness becomes more specified in different areas. Like, it's not just counseling that we can pursue, it becomes more focused on mental health in general and on human development, right? And we also see it as just a whole part of wellness, that something, obviously, as our body is mind, body, and soul. We recognize that through counseling, and not as it just, here is your mental health, here is your physical and spiritual, and so on. So this kind of philosophy of counseling was really grounded in humanistic values, emphasizing lots of empathy and respect, right? Really hearing from people and not listening to respond. So this whole dynamic has really shifted what counseling has become from where it started with Frank Parsons and what it is. Obviously, there are many dimensions to being aware of who the client is, where they come from, and a huge pillar of that is multicultural awareness, right? Deriving from the identity that people carry within different cultures, also within their lived experiences. Now, these can both be separate ideas and also combined. Certain cultures have certain lived experiences and vice versa. People living in multiple different cultures can have virtually the same or similar lived experience. As a counselor, seeing people and being multiculturally aware can open up so many biases for us, and it really becomes a mirror in where we may be lacking in some sort of knowledge, or that we feel very biased in, that as counselors we have to learn to lay down to how we see things or how we have experienced things, and totally letting in that people's experiences are not going to be the same as ours, and we're not going to totally understand every single thing that we see from any client. So again, coming back with the empathy and respect of, we don't know everything, that's not what we claim, but we know how to sit with people in certain instances, in many instances, where we can help them become better versions of themselves to then have a better life experience overall. Advocacy also holds a great anchor in the counseling profession. It is not only rooted within the ethical standard that counselors are to withhold, which is a great deal to the field. It's also just about awareness of what counselors do. Many times we see movies that therapists sit there and nod their heads and seem very reliable and tell people that they understand completely what they're going through, which is the number one big no-no that we have learned in this course so far. So advocacy for the clients, for the counseling profession, is also a huge pillar to mental health. National organizations become a huge source of mental health counselors, depending on if you work with athletes or if you work with special needs children, for example. The number one I would definitely recommend any counselor trainee or anyone in the psychological field to pursue, but I know that I definitely will be within my student stance, and then also as a professional counselor once I get my license, would be the American Psychological Association. This is a great resource that we have used throughout this process in grad school. I've used it a little bit in undergrad, again providing lots of advocacy and knowledge within this department that we can pull from, again, use it as a resource and lean back on for our counseling identity. Professional development that I would be associated with would be the National Board for Certified Counselors, and rightfully so. They want to promote the most professional identity of counselors. They oversee the national certification so that whatever state you're in, whatever country you're in, you are able to withhold the standard of the certification that they want for that specific state, and that you meet the requirements for it in the most professional. I am a current West Virginia resident. I plan to move to North Carolina and practice counseling there. And so looking at the labor market and the counseling that is in the state of North Carolina, they have impeccable growth, and it is actually predetermined that from the year of 2024 for a decade, so that would be into 2034, there should be a 17% mental health increase of whether that be counselors and therapists, anything that falls under the umbrella of mental health. It is expected to increase, which is a great reassurance for me as someone who's getting ready to relocate down there, and also makes me excited that it is a growing population in and of itself, and then for people to be pursuing the betterment of their mental health makes me excited to work with people that are pursuing the betterment of themselves. Now, supervision creates a critical role in the upcoming of counselor trainees, right? We get to dip our toes in the water, get our feet wet in real life, hands-on counseling situations, while also holding ourselves accountable with professionals, which I think is a great opportunity for one to learn, one to be curious with, and be able to ask questions in maybe different areas you couldn't be able to in a classroom setting, right? Doing the dirty work is not glorified all the time, but sometimes experiencing something is the only way to learn, and I'm really excited for supervision that it will go in that way, in a sense, as in my past experiences of different internships. I have felt this way and come out on the other side more knowledgeable in that area, which makes me excited as a counselor trainee. I am currently working on and have gotten better with, but can always improve, would be emotional responsibility, especially feeling for clients. I know that as someone who is maybe overly empathetic sometimes, I can feel responsible for other people's emotions, or a certain way that I will react will harm someone's emotional barrier, which end all be all, we can't control other people, right? So I think that would be a limit of mine that I am currently working on, would like to work on, will probably work on for the rest of my life. I just don't want it to lead to burnout or fatigue in the long run as a counselor, because working with emotions all day, when not regulated properly, can cause that. And I would hate to step away from something that I feel so passionate and drawn towards just because I am not working on myself while helping other people work. I think a huge advocate to maintaining that emotional responsibility are boundaries. Boundaries in general are great things. And I think having an emotional boundary and really scheduling your workday to a T for that purpose can really be beneficial in avoiding the burnout and avoiding the fatigue and maybe even loss of passion. And I think as another self-care strategy would just have to be mindfulness and reflection. I like to personally do journals at the end of the day and start the sentence with, today I noticed that. Today I noticed that the birds sing at 8 a.m. Today I noticed that my ceiling fan's a little too cold for the end of November. Simple things like that really make you slow down and take in what's around you instead of immersing yourself in something that maybe isn't as immediate or isn't as present as you would like to be. To summarize this video assignment and my overall assessment of myself in this course and the end of the first semester, I would say the best word for it would be growth. And I don't say that lightly. I think reading back through the CPI journals, like I had mentioned earlier, really makes you think from different dimensions, different angles about the same kind of topic. And that is a challenge. We are wired to work and to answer the same question one way over and over and over again. But when you really take into account how complex counseling is, right? We talk about that it is so branched off and has become that way since Frank Parsons. It has really challenged me to grow and to learn more about counseling that I didn't know before, which was the most important part. So all be all, I would say that growth has been the biggest factor of this class and of myself personally going over this video assignment. So thank you. I have enjoyed the semester and I cannot wait for what's next.